My husband helped his ex-wife plan to kidnap our son after doing the unthinkable to him for years, so I fought for custody. I got it, but my ex-husband's family started stalking and harassing us, so we prepared to flee the state. The morning we were supposed to leave, they were at the border with us. My stepson was 5 years old when he whispered, "Why can't mommy and daddy just get back together?" But it wasn't because they made him happy. Quite the opposite, actually. Because according to my husband's home security camera, his ex, Ben's bio mom, loved to scream and throw things when she was angry. I remember watching in horror as Stephanie threw a steel fork at Ben's head, all because she couldn't find the remote control. But Ben had been diagnosed with anxiety, which meant that his childlike desire for parental approval was insatiable. I never took it personally, though. Instead, I tried to make things easier for him. I texted Stephanie once a week, reminding her about his breathing techniques, therapy appointments, and sleep schedule. But out of nowhere, my husband texted me that I was being controlling and needed to know my place. I tried to back off after that, until a few weeks later, when I noticed him becoming super jittery and screaming in response to any sound produced. He started wetting the bed every night because something was after him in the hallway. So I did what any sane adult would do in that situation. I went through his bag. There, I found horror movie ticket stubs in his backpack along with candy wrappers. I sighed and immediately called Stephanie. "Stephanie, you know he can't have horror movies or sweets. Maybe that'll teach you not to stick your nose where it doesn't belong," she interrupted. My heart dropped. She was using her son as ammunition. Before I could say anything else, she hung up. And the following week, Stephanie introduced a random man to her son, and that man was her new boyfriend. I wish I had known while dropping Ben at his mom's house that it was the last time I'd ever see him again, because the boy that returned wasn't my stepson, for the most part anyway. The once laughing, smiley Ben was flinching at every single movement. I even noticed a slight limp in his right leg. I told my husband about it, and he said he'd bathe him and figure out what was going on, but I couldn't help myself. So while they were in there together, I peeped through the lock hole. Bile rose in my throat. All along, Ben's arms were green and yellow bruises. He could barely even sit in the bathtub properly, as if his buttocks hurt a lot too. Something in me snapped. I burst the door open. "You can't leave him alone with Stephanie again." Ben threw one of his bath toys at me. "You effing bitch. It's your fault he touched me. Mommy says you're a bitch who makes everyone mad." I turned to my husband, hoping he'd back me up, but he turned on me. "Get out! You're scaring him." He wrapped Ben in a towel while Ben kept screaming at me. "That bitch makes him hurt me. Mommy says if I tell anyone she'll make it worse." I stood frozen in the doorway. Did you hear what he just said? Someone touched him. Someone hurt him. But my husband just responded with, "He's confused because you burst in here like a maniac." This is exactly what Stephanie warned me about. You're trying to turn him against her. That night I couldn't sleep. Ben's words echoed in my head. I could hear him crying through the walls, but when I tried to check on him, my husband blocked the door. "You've done enough damage. Sleep on the couch." The next morning, Ben wouldn't look at me. He ate breakfast in silence while my husband got him ready for school. After they left, I called in sick to work. I couldn't stop thinking about those bruises and what Ben had screamed. So I made a decision that would change everything. I grabbed my laptop and started documenting everything. Screenshots of text messages, photos of Ben's bruises I'd managed to snap when he wasn't looking, recordings of conversations I'd secretly captured on my phone. My hands shook as I created folder after folder of evidence. Marcus started showing up during the custody exchanges. He'd lean against Stephanie's car, arms crossed, staring me down while Ben climbed out of our vehicle. The first time, he just watched. The second time, he walked over while my husband was buckling Ben into Stephanie's car. "Nice family you got here," Marcus said, his voice low enough that only I could hear. Be a shame if someone started spreading lies about good people. My stomach churned, but I kept my face neutral. Just want what's best for Ben. "Yeah?" He stepped closer. "Then you'll keep that pretty mouth shut about things that ain't your business." After they drove away, I told my husband what Marcus had said. He rolled his eyes. "You're being paranoid." He was probably just making conversation. The following Monday, Ben's teacher called. Mrs. Peterson's voice was careful, measured. I wanted to touch base about Ben. He's been having some behavioral changes, and I noticed some bruising on his arms during PE. My heart raced. "What did you do?" "I filed a report with CPS as required," but she paused. "His mother came in with documentation from their pediatrician saying he'd been roughhousing with neighborhood kids. CPS closed the case." "But that's not true. He doesn't even play with neighborhood kids." "I understand your concern, but without concrete evidence." I hung up feeling defeated. That evening, I showed my husband the folder I'd been compiling. Photos, recordings, documentation of every incident. He flipped through it, his face growing darker with each page. "What is this?" His voice was dangerously quiet. "Evidence. Ben needs help, and you're not listening to me." He stood up abruptly, grabbing the folder. "This is insane. You're obsessed with Stephanie. You've been recording conversations, taking pictures of Ben without permission? To protect him? No, to feed your delusions." He walked to the fireplace, and before I could stop him, threw the entire folder into the flames. "You need help. Professional help." I watched months of documentation turn to ash, tears streaming down my face. Things got worse. Ben started having accidents at school. The nurse called me as his emergency contact one afternoon. "Ben's had another accident." When I was helping him change, he said something concerning. "What did he say?" "He told me my tummy hurts when I sit because mommy's friend plays bad games." I drove to the school immediately, but by the time I arrived, Stephanie was already there. She'd somehow gotten wind of the situation and was in the principal's office, Ben on her lap. "This woman is poisoning my son against me," Stephanie screamed when she saw me. "She's filling his head with sick ideas." The principal looked uncomfortable. "Perhaps we should all calm down." "Calm down? This psycho is trying to destroy my family." Stephanie stood up, Ben clinging to her. "Stay away from my son." That night, my husband sided with her completely. The school called Stephanie first. "You shouldn't have even gone there." The nurse called me. "Ben said someone was hurting him." "Ben says a lot of things. Kids make stuff up." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You saw the bruises yourself." "I saw a normal kid with normal playground injuries. You're the one turning it into something sinister." The next morning, while my husband was at work and Ben was at school, I did something desperate. I snuck into Ben's room and installed a recording app on his tablet. It would activate with voice commands and upload to cloud storage. If something happened during his next visit with Stephanie, I'd have proof. Friday came too quickly. As I helped Ben pack his bag, I made sure his tablet was charged and tucked safely inside. He seemed more anxious than usual, clinging to his stuffed dinosaur. "You'll be back Sunday night," I reminded him gently. He nodded but didn't speak. When Stephanie arrived, Marcus was with her again. They waited by the car while my husband walked Ben out. I watched from the window as Ben climbed into the back seat, his small face pale. Saturday passed in anxious silence. My husband barely spoke to me, spending most of his time in his office. I kept checking my phone, waiting for any cloud uploads from Ben's tablet. Then, Saturday night, the recordings started coming through. The first one was just background noise, TV sounds, and distant voices, but the second one made my blood run cold. Marcus's voice clear and menacing. "You know what happens to tattletales, right, kid?" Ben small voice. I didn't tell anyone anything. Better not. Bad things happen to kids who can't keep their mouths shut, and to people they care about. There was a sound like something hitting flesh, then Ben crying. Stephanie's laughter came through next. Oh, stop being such a baby. Marcus is just teaching you how to be tough. I was listening to the third recording when my husband walked into the kitchen. His face went white, then red with rage. What are you doing? Listen to this, I said, holding out my phone. Just listen. He grabbed the phone and threw it against the wall. It shattered into pieces. You bugged our son? You've completely lost it. He was screaming now. Pack your things. Get out. Get out of my house right now. But Ben, get out. I packed what I could carry and drove to my sister Catherine's house. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside. What happened? I told her everything. She listened without judgment, then said quietly, we need to get Ben help. How? I have no evidence now. My husband destroyed it all. We'll figure something out. Sunday evening came and went with no word from my husband. Monday morning, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Please come get me. Ben's voice was barely a whisper. Mommy and Marcus are fighting and I'm scared. Ben, where are you? Outside. They locked me out and it's cold. I grabbed my keys. I'm coming. Stay on the phone. Catherine insisted on coming with me. We drove to Stephanie's house to find Ben huddled on the front porch in just his pajamas, shivering in the cold night air. His tablet was clutched in his hands. Ben, I wrapped him in my jacket. How long have you been out here? I don't know. They were yelling and throwing things and Marcus pushed me outside. The front door flew open. Stephanie stood there, hair wild, eyes blazing. What are you doing here? Ben called me. He was locked outside. He's lying. He snuck out because he wanted attention. Get off my property before I call the cops. You locked a 5-year-old outside in the cold. Prove it. She grabbed Ben's arm roughly. Get inside. Now. Ben cried out in pain. Catherine, who was a nurse, stepped forward. That's enough. Ben, where does it hurt? Everywhere. He whimpered. I'm calling the police, I said, reaching for my phone. Stephanie laughed. Go ahead. I'll tell them you're stalking me, showing up at my house, trying to kidnap my son. I'll get a restraining order so fast your head will spin. We had no choice but to leave, but Catherine had seen enough. Back at her house, she gently examined Ben's new injuries while I called my husband. Ben was locked outside. He's hurt. Catherine's documenting new bruises and stop. His voice was ice cold. My lawyer will be in touch. Don't contact me again. The divorce papers arrived 2 days later, along with a temporary restraining order. I wasn't allowed within 500 feet of my husband or Ben. Stephanie had somehow convinced him I was dangerous. The supervised exchange was scheduled at the police station. I wasn't allowed to go, but Catherine went in my place. She came back with tears in her eyes. Ben slipped me this. She handed me a crumpled piece of paper. In shaky 5-year-old handwriting. Marcus told Mommy he'd hurt you if I talked. I sobbed. That little boy was trying to protect me. 2 weeks later, an envelope appeared under my door at Catherine's house. No return address. Inside was a USB drive and a note. Thought you should see this. A concerned neighbor. The USB contained security footage from a house across the street from Stephanie's. Clear as day, it showed Marcus dragging Ben inside by his arm while Ben screamed. Another clip showed Ben being pushed outside and the door slamming shut. I immediately took it to my lawyer. She watched the footage with growing anger. This changes everything, she said. But there's something else you should know. I did some digging. Your husband has been having an affair. My stomach dropped. What? With Stephanie? Apparently they've been trying to reconcile. He wants his family back together. Everything clicked into place. His defensiveness, his refusal to see the truth, his anger at me. He'd been playing me the entire time. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following month. Ben's teacher, Mrs. Peterson, agreed to testify about the behavioral changes she'd witnessed. But the real breakthrough came when Ben's therapist, Dr. Chen, made the difficult decision to break confidentiality. I believe Ben is in imminent danger, she told the judge in chambers. The things he's disclosed in our sessions, I can't stay silent. Then, 3 days before the final hearing, Marcus was arrested. Not for hurting Ben, but on substance charges. And facing serious time, he made a deal. Yeah, I rough the kid up sometimes, he told investigators. But Stephanie told me to. Said it would make him too scared to talk about what she did to him. The day of the hearing, Ben was brought in to speak with the judge privately, a child advocate by his side. He was in there for an hour. When he came out, he ran straight to me, despite the restraining order still being in place. I told her everything, he whispered. All the bad stuff. The judge's ruling was swift. Stephanie lost custody immediately, granted only supervised visits. My husband's parental rights were suspended pending investigation into his failure to protect Ben, and I was granted temporary guardianship. This child has been failed by almost every adult in his life, the judge said, looking directly at my husband and Stephanie, except for one who fought for him even when it cost her everything. As we left the courthouse, Stephanie was served with criminal charges. She screamed threats and obscenities until court security dragged her away. That night, Ben slept in his own bed at Catherine's house, safe for the first time in months. But Stephanie wasn't done. 2 weeks into the new custody arrangement, she violated the supervision rules during a visit, trying to convince Ben to run away with her. When that failed, she simply disappeared. The police found her apartment cleaned out, her car abandoned at a bus station. She was fleeing the charges, leaving Ben behind. Is Mommy coming back? Ben asked one night. I don't know, sweetheart. Good, he said quietly. I don't want her to come back. Months passed. Ben started trauma therapy with a new specialist. Slowly, the scared, angry little boy began to heal. He stopped flinching at sudden movements. He slept through the night without nightmares. He even started playing with kids at school again. The divorce was finalized. My ex-husband lost his house in the settlement and most of his assets went to Ben's therapy fund. He tried to regain some custody rights, but Ben's guardian ad litem shut that down quickly. The child is thriving in his current placement, she reported. Any disruption would be detrimental to his recovery. Spring arrived, and with it, Mother's Day. Ben's school was having a celebration, and parents were invited. I wasn't sure if I should go. You have to come, Ben insisted. I made you something, so I went. I sat in the back, watching as kids presented handmade cards and gifts to their mothers. When it was Ben's turn, he walked to the front of the room holding a painted flower pot with a tiny plant inside. This is for my mom, he said clearly. Then he walked straight to me. Thank you for saving me, Mom. It was the first time he'd called me Mom, the first time he'd chosen me. I hugged him tight, both of us crying. I love you, Ben. I love you too, Mom. Later, as we walked to the car, Ben held my hand tightly. Mom, can we go get ice cream? Of course we can. As we drove away from the school, Ben chattering about his friends and the game they'd played at recess, I realized something. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I married his father, but watching this brave little boy reclaim his childhood, hearing him laugh without fear, being chosen as his mom, this was better than anything I could have planned. Ben was finally safe. He was finally free to just be a kid, and that was worth everything I'd gone through to get here. Mom, Ben said as we pulled into the ice cream shop, I'm really glad you didn't give up on me. Never, sweetheart. Not ever. And I meant it. Some fights are worth having, no matter the cost. Ben taught me that. My brave, resilient, incredible son. The ice cream shop was crowded that afternoon, filled with families enjoying the warm spring weather weather. Ben chose chocolate chip cookie dough, his favorite, and we found a small table by the window. He was telling me about his new friend at school when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Enjoy it while it lasts. My blood ran cold. I glanced around the shop but saw only happy families. Ben noticed my tension immediately, his spoon pausing halfway to his mouth. What's wrong, Mom? I forced a smile. Nothing, sweetheart. Tell me more about your friend. But the texts kept coming over the next few days. Pictures of Ben at school, photos of Catherine's house, messages warning me that I couldn't protect him forever. I changed my phone number, but somehow the messages found me again. Catherine noticed my increasing anxiety. One evening after Ben was asleep, she cornered me in the kitchen. What's going on? You've been jumpy all week. I showed her the messages. Her face went pale. We need to tell the police. With what proof? The numbers are always different. They'll say I'm paranoid, just like my ex-husband did. The following week, things escalated. Ben came home from school with a note in his backpack. Not from his teacher, but written in Stephanie's handwriting. He's still my son. I immediately called Ben's school. The secretary assured me that Stephanie wasn't on the pickup list and couldn't enter the building, but someone had gotten close enough to put that note in his bag. I started walking Ben into school myself, staying until he was safely in his classroom. The other parents gave me strange looks, but I didn't care. Ben's safety was all that mattered. Then Marcus's cousin showed up. I first saw him outside the grocery store, leaning against a hit-up truck. He looked enough like Marcus to make my stomach drop. When our eyes met, he smiled and tipped an imaginary hat. Friend of yours? Catherine asked, noticing my reaction. Marcus's family, I whispered, hurrying Ben toward the car. He started showing up everywhere. Outside the library during Ben's reading program, at the park where Ben played soccer. Always watching, always smiling that same unsettling smile. I tried documenting everything, taking photos when I could, but he was careful, never doing anything overtly threatening, just being there, watching, waiting. Ben started having nightmares again. He'd wake up screaming about the bad man coming to take him away. His therapist, Dr. Chen, noticed his regression immediately. Has something changed in his environment? She asked during our session. I explained about the texts, the note, Marcus's cousin. She took careful notes, her expression growing more concerned. I think you should consider filing a police report. This sounds like harassment. But when I went to the police station, the officer behind the desk looked skeptical. So this man, he's just standing in public places, not approaching you or making threats. He's stalking us. Ma'am, being in the same public spaces isn't stalking, unless he makes a direct threat or violates the restraining order. I left feeling more helpless than ever. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Peterson called me one afternoon, her voice urgent. I need to speak with you. Not over the phone. Can you come to the school? I found her in her empty classroom, papers spread across her desk. I've been keeping my own documentation, she said without preamble. About Ben, about what I've observed. She showed me dated notes, behavioral charts, drawings Ben had made, dark drawings full of scary figures and sad little boys. I've been a teacher for 20 years, she said. I know when a child is in trouble, and I think Ben's still in danger. His mother disappeared. She's gone. Mrs. Peterson shook her head. I saw her last week in a car outside the school. My heart stopped. What? It was during recess. A blue sedan parked across the street. I'm certain it was her. She was watching the playground. Did you tell anyone? I reported it to the principal, but without a license plate. She pushed a piece of paper toward me. I wrote down everything I saw. The date, time, what she was wearing. I've been watching for her ever since. I took the paper with shaking hands. Thank you. There's more. She pulled out another folder. Other teachers have noticed things too. Strange adults asking questions about Ben. Someone called pretending to be from the district, trying to get his schedule. The pattern was clear. Stephanie might have disappeared, but she hadn't given up. That night, I installed new locks on Catherine's doors and a security system with cameras. Ben watched me testing the window alarms, his small face serious. Is the bad man coming? He asked. I knelt beside him. No one's going to hurt you, I promise. But promises felt hollow when I couldn't control what happened outside our walls. The next incident happened at the grocery store. Ben and I were shopping for dinner when I noticed a woman following us through the aisles. She wore a baseball cap pulled low, but something about her movements seemed familiar. I abandoned our cart and headed for the exit, Ben's hand tight in mine. The woman followed. In the parking lot, I finally got a clear look at her face in the reflection of a car window. It was Stephanie's sister, Paula. I'd only met her once at a birthday party years ago, but I recognized her immediately. She was staying back, pretending to check her phone, but clearly tracking our movements. I buckled Ben into his car seat quickly, my hands shaking. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw Paula getting into a blue sedan, the same type of car Mrs. Peterson had described. That evening, I called my lawyer. Stephanie's family is stalking us. Her sister was at the store today. Did she approach you? Make any threats? No, but then legally there's nothing we can do. Following someone in a public place isn't a crime unless there's a threat or violation of a restraining order. So we just wait until something happens? Document everything. If we can establish a pattern of harassment, we might be able to get a broader protective order. But I was tired of documenting, tired of waiting for the legal system to protect us. That night, after Ben was asleep, I made a decision. I started researching Stephanie's family, social media profiles, public records, anything I could find. Paula lived 2 towns over. She had 2 kids of her own and worked at a dental office. Her Facebook was full of posts about family loyalty and blood being thicker than water. There were photos of Stephanie from before she disappeared, comments about injustice and fighting for what's right. Paula's friends had rallied around her, believing whatever story Stephanie had spun about losing her son. I also found something interesting. Marcus's cousin, the one who'd been following us, was named Derek. He had a long criminal record: assault, theft, substance possession. He was on probation, which meant he wasn't supposed to be harassing anyone. Armed with this information, I went back to the police. This time, I asked for a specific officer, Detective Rodriguez, who'd worked on Ben's case. Derek Matthews is violating his probation by stalking us, I said, showing her the photos I'd taken. And Paula Williams has been following us too. They're working together. Detective Rodriguez studied the evidence. This is good. With Derek's probation status, we can actually do something. Let me make some calls. Within days, Derek was arrested for probation violation, but that only seemed to make things worse. The calls started again, this time to Catherine's house phone. Heavy breathing, hang-ups, sometimes a woman's voice whispering, "You can't keep him forever." Catherine changed her number, but somehow they got the new one too. Ben's anxiety skyrocketed. He started refusing to go to school, clinging to me every morning. Dr. Chen increased his therapy sessions, but the progress we'd made was unraveling. "I'm scared," he told me one night, curled up in my bed after another nightmare. "What if mommy comes back? She can't hurt you anymore," I promised. "I won't let her. But what if she takes me when you're not looking?" I didn't have a good answer for that. The situation reached a breaking point 3 weeks later. I was picking Ben up from school when Mrs. Peterson met me at the door, her face grave. "There was an incident today," she said quietly. "A woman tried to pick up Ben at lunch. She claimed to be his aunt." My knees went weak. Paula Paula? She had an ID and everything, said there was a family emergency, but we followed protocol and checked the approved pickup list. When we refused to release him, she became agitated. Where's Ben now? In the office with the principal. He's safe but shaken. The woman left before security could detain her. I found Ben huddled in a chair, his teacher's aide sitting beside him. When he saw me, he launched himself into my arms. She said mommy sent her, he sobbed. She said mommy missed me and wanted me back. I held him tight, fury building in my chest. This had to stop. That night I made another decision. If the law couldn't protect us, I'd have to get creative. I reached out to a private investigator Catherine knew from her hospital work. I need to find Stephanie, I told him, before she finds us. The investigator, a former cop named Tom, listened to our story with growing concern. She's escalating. Using family members means she's getting desperate. Can you help? I'll see what I can find, but you need to be prepared. If she's as unstable as you say, this could get dangerous. Tom started digging while we increased our security measures. Ben began staying with different trusted friends after school, never following the same pattern. I varied our routes, changed our routines, made us unpredictable, but living in fear was taking its toll. Ben wet the bed most nights. He barely ate. The happy little boy who'd called me mom on Mother's Day was disappearing again. 2 weeks into Tom's investigation, he called with news. I found her. She's been staying with a cousin in the next state. But here's the interesting part. She's been in contact with your ex-husband. My blood ran cold. What? Phone records show multiple calls between them. Recent ones. Whatever game she's playing, he might be involved. I thought about my ex-husband. How quickly he'd turned on me. How eager he'd been to believe Stephanie's lies. Had he been helping her all along? There's more, Tom continued. She's been posting in online forums for alienated parents, spinning a story about how you stole her son. She's gathered quite a following. Some of these people, they're extremists. They believe children should be with biological parents no matter what. What do we do? Document everything. I'm building a case file, but you might want to consider relocating, at least temporarily. The thought of uprooting Ben again broke my heart. He just started to feel safe, to make friends. But what choice did we have? That decision was made for us the following Friday. I just dropped Ben at school when my phone rang. It was the principal. You need to come back, now. I broke every speed limit getting there. Police cars filled the parking lot. Parents clustered on the sidewalk, whispering among themselves. The principal met me at the door. There was an attempted breach. 2 women tried to enter through the playground gate during morning recess. They were confronted by our security guard. Was one of them? We believe so. They fled when the guard called for backup, but we're reviewing security footage now. Inside the office, Ben sat with Detective Rodriguez. He was pale but calm, playing with a stress ball the counselor had given him. Hey buddy, I said, kneeling beside him. You okay? He nodded. I stayed with my class like you taught me. I didn't go near the fence. That's my brave boy. Detective Rodriguez pulled me aside. We got clear footage. It was Stephanie and Paula. We've issued warrants for both of them. So what happens now? Now we find them. In the meantime, I'm assigning a patrol car to do regular checks at your residence and the school, but I knew that wasn't enough. That afternoon, I made the call I'd been dreading. My cousin lived 3 states away, in a small town where no one knew our story. She'd offered to let us stay with her before. Of course, she said immediately when I explained. Come as soon as you can. I started packing that night, trying to make it seem like an adventure to Ben. We're going to visit cousin Sarah for a while. You'll love it there. She has a big dog and a swimming pool. But Ben saw through my false cheer. Are we running away from mommy? I sat on his bed, choosing my words carefully. We're keeping ourselves safe, just for a little while. Will I have to change schools again? The resignation in his voice broke my heart. Maybe, but wherever we go, we'll be together. That's what matters. We planned to leave Monday morning. All weekend, I packed our essentials, arranged for Catherine to handle the house, contacted Ben's therapist for referrals in our new location. Sunday night, I barely slept. Every noise made me jump. Every car passing by sent my heart racing. But morning came without incident. I was loading the last bag into the car when Catherine grabbed my arm. Wait, look. A police car was parked across the street. Not the usual patrol, but an unmarked vehicle. Detective Rodriguez got out and walked toward us. We found them, she said without preamble. Stephanie and Paula. They were arrested an hour ago trying to cross state lines. Relief flooded through me so intensely I had to lean against the car. They're in custody, both of them. And here's the interesting part. They had Ben's passport with them. Fake custody papers. They were planning to take him out of the country. I thought I might be sick. How did they get his passport? We're still investigating, but she hesitated. Your ex-husband's fingerprints were on the documents. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. He'd been helping them. The man who'd promised to love and protect Ben had been part of the plan to kidnap him. He's been arrested too, Detective Rodriguez continued. Conspiracy to commit kidnapping, among other charges. This is big. They're all looking at serious time. I looked at Ben, playing with Catherine in the yard, blissfully unaware of how close he'd come to being taken. So it's over? The immediate threat is, but there will be trials, testimony. Ben might have to speak in court again. He's been through enough, I know, but his testimony could ensure they can't hurt him or any other child again. I made the decision then. We wouldn't run. We'd stay and fight. See this through to the end. Ben deserved closure, and those who tried to hurt him deserved justice. The next months were a blur of legal proceedings. Stephanie, Paula, and my ex-husband were all charged with conspiracy to commit kidnapping, custodial interference, and stalking. Derek was charged separately for probation violation and harassment. Ben was amazing through it all. With Dr. Chen's help, he prepared to testify again. This time, he knew I'd be right there in the courtroom, that he was safe, that the bad people couldn't hurt him anymore. The trial date was set for fall. As spring turned to summer, life slowly returned to something like normal. Ben started playing with friends again. His nightmares decreased. He even asked if he could try soccer in the fall. But the best moment came one evening in July. We were making dinner together, Ben standing on a stool to reach the counter, when he suddenly said, "Mom, I'm glad they didn't take me away." I hugged him tight, breathing in his little boy's smell of grass and sunshine. Me too, sweetheart. You know what? He pulled back to look at me, his face serious. I think we're gonna be okay now. Looking at this brave, resilient child who'd survived so much, I knew he was right. We were going to be okay. Better than okay. We were going to thrive. The trials would come. There would be hard days ahead, but we'd face them together. This little family we'd built from the ashes of betrayal and pain. I love you, Ben, I said, ruffling his hair. Love you too, Mom, forever and ever. And in that moment, standing in our kitchen making spaghetti, I knew that everything we'd been through had been worth it. Ben was safe. He was loved. He was mine. The rest we'd figure out as we went. The summer heat made everything feel heavier that August morning. Ben and I were at the farmer's market when I spotted a familiar figure near the tomato stand. My ex-husband's mother, who I hadn't seen since the divorce proceedings began. She approached slowly, her face unreadable. Ben pressed closer to my leg, recognizing his grandmother despite the months of separation. I need to speak with you, she said quietly, privately. I glanced down at Ben, then back at her. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. She pulled an envelope from her purse. My son asked me to give you this. From prison. My hand stayed at my side. I don't want anything from him. Please. Her voice cracked. Just read it. For Ben's sake. Ben tugged on my shirt. Who's that, Mom? Someone we used to know, I said, taking the envelope but not opening it. His grandmother's face crumpled at my words, but she nodded and walked away without another word. That afternoon, while Ben played in Catherine's backyard, I finally opened the letter. My ex-husband's handwriting filled 3 pages, alternating between apologies and accusations. He claimed Stephanie had manipulated him, that he'd only wanted his family back together. The final paragraph made my blood boil. He was requesting supervised visits with Ben once he was released. I showed the letter to my lawyer that evening. She read it carefully, then looked up with a grim expression. He's trying to establish a paper trail of remorse, she explained. His lawyer probably advised him to write this, but given his conspiracy conviction, any custody petition would face an uphill battle. Can he get visits? Theoretically, yes, but not for years, and only if he completes extensive rehabilitation programs. Ben would also have to agree to see him, given his age and the circumstances. The thought of Ben having to make that choice someday made my stomach turn. 2 days later, Mrs. Peterson called with concerning news. There's a woman who's been asking about Ben. She claims to be writing a book about custody disputes and wanted to interview me about my observations. Did you talk to her? Absolutely not, but she seemed very persistent. She knew details about the case that weren't public. I immediately called Detective Rodriguez, who promised to look into it. Within hours, she called back with troubling information. The woman is a blogger who runs a parents' rights website. She's been in contact with Stephanie's online support group. It seems they're trying to turn your case into some kind of rallying cry. Can they do that? Freedom of speech protects a lot, but if she approaches Ben or violates any privacy laws, we can act. I'd recommend being extra vigilant. That weekend, Ben had his first soccer game. I sat in the bleachers with Catherine, scanning the crowd for unfamiliar faces. Every parent with a camera made me nervous. When Ben scored his first goal, I cheered loudly, but couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. After the game, as Ben celebrated with his teammates, a woman approached with a friendly smile. Your son plays beautifully. Natural athlete. Something about her felt off. Thank you, I said curtly, taking Ben's hand. I'm actually a youth sports photographer, she continued, pulling out a business card. I'd love to feature him in our local athletics magazine. Ben looked excited, but I stepped between them. We're not interested. Her smile faltered. It's a great opportunity for young athletes. I said no. My voice was firm. Other parents were starting to notice the tension. She held up her hands. No need to be rude. Some parents actually want their children to succeed. As she walked away, I memorized her face. That evening, I searched online for youth sports photographers in our area. She didn't exist, but her photo did appear on the parents' rights blog Detective Rodriguez had mentioned. I filed another police report, adding to our growing collection of harassment documentation. Ben asked why I'd been so mean to the photography lady, and I struggled to explain without scaring him. Sometimes people pretend to be something they're not, I said carefully. It's my job to keep you safe. He nodded solemnly, like how mommy pretended to be nice sometimes. The comparison broke my heart. No 5-year-old should be that perceptive about deception. Dr. Chen addressed it in his next therapy session. I waited in the lobby, flipping through magazines without reading them. When they emerged, Ben seemed lighter somehow. He's processing things remarkably well, Dr. Chen told me privately, but he's worried about starting school. New environments are triggering anxiety about potential threats. First grade was only 2 weeks away. We toured the school, met his teacher, done everything to prepare. But Ben still woke up with nightmares about someone taking him from the playground. I decided to be proactive. I scheduled a meeting with the principal and school security, providing them with photos of Stephanie, Paula, and my ex-husband. The security officer took notes while I explained the situation. We'll add extra monitoring during recess and dismissal, he assured me, and Ben's teacher will be briefed on the situation. The night before school started, Ben couldn't sleep. I found him sitting by his window at midnight, watching the street below. What if they come to my new school? He whispered. I sat beside him, pulling him close. Remember what we practiced? You stay with your teacher, you never go with anyone who isn't on the list, and you tell an adult immediately if you see anyone you recognize. But what if they trick me? No one can trick you into leaving with them. You're too smart for that. He leaned against me, so small and vulnerable. Will you walk me to class tomorrow? Every day if you want. The first day went smoothly. Ben's teacher, Ms. Martinez, was warm and understanding. She discreetly assured me that she'd keep extra watch over him. But by the third day, Ben reported that a substitute teacher had asked strange questions about his family during lunch duty. I marched into the principal's office. Who authorizes substitutes? Are they background checked? The principal pulled up records. We had no substitutes yesterday. All our regular staff were present. My blood ran cold. Someone had been in the school, talking to my son, pretending to be staff. Security footage revealed a woman in professional clothing who'd walked through the cafeteria during lunch. She'd stopped at several tables, including Ben's, before leaving through a side door. Her face was partially obscured, but her build looked familiar. That could be Paula, I told Detective Rodriguez, studying the grainy image, but I can't be certain. Security protocols at the school tightened immediately. Visitors now needed photo ID and verification before entering. Staff wore visible badges, but the damage was done. Ben no longer felt safe at lunch. Tom, the private investigator, called with an update. Stephanie's been spotted in 3 different states over the past month. She's using cash, staying off the grid, but she's running out of money and allies. What does that mean for us? Desperate people make mistakes. She'll surface eventually. When she does, law enforcement will be ready. But waiting for eventually while trying to give Ben a normal life felt impossible. Every day brought new challenges. He refused to join after-school activities, afraid I wouldn't be there to pick him up. He stopped playing at recess, instead sitting by his teacher. One afternoon, Catherine picked Ben up while I handled a work emergency. When I got home, she was pale and shaken. Someone followed us from the school, she said quietly, while Ben played in the next room. Blue sedan. They turned off when I pulled into the police station parking lot. I called Detective Rodriguez immediately. She increased patrols around the school and Catherine's house, but we all knew they couldn't be everywhere. The breaking point came in October. Ben's class was preparing for a Halloween party, and he'd been excited about his astronaut costume for weeks, but the morning of the party, he refused to go to school. They'll come get me when everyone's wearing masks, he sobbed. I won't know who anyone is. No amount of reassurance could convince him. I kept him home, both of us missing the party he'd looked forward to. That evening, I made a decision. We're going to take control back, I told Catherine. No more waiting for them to make moves. I hired a second private investigator to track Paula's movements. Within a week, week, he'd found her pattern. She was staying with different friends, moving every few days, but always within a 50-mile radius. She's got a job under the table at a restaurant, he reported. Cash only. She's saving up for something. Armed with this information, Detective Rodriguez set up surveillance. 2 weeks later, Paula was arrested trying to buy a fake ID. Under questioning, she revealed that Stephanie had been hiding at a women's shelter 2 states away, using a false identity. The arrest happened on a Tuesday morning. Stephanie fought hard, injuring 2 officers before being subdued. In her possession were maps of Ben's school, our neighborhood, and Catherine's house. She'd been planning something big. She had rope and sedatives in her car, Detective Rodriguez told me. Whatever she was planning, it was imminent. The relief was overwhelming, but Ben's reaction surprised me. He seemed almost disappointed. Does this mean she won't ever come back? He asked quietly. Dr. Chen explained it during an emergency session. He's been in survival mode for so long. The threat became part of his identity. Now he has to learn how to exist without that constant fear. The adjustment was harder than I'd expected. Ben had nightmares about Stephanie escaping from jail. He convinced himself that her arrest was a trick. Every siren made him panic. I took a week off work to be with him constantly. We watched movies, built blanket forts, and slowly, carefully, talked about the future. She can't hurt you anymore, I repeated. The police have her. The judge won't let her out. But what about when I'm bigger? What if she gets out then? Then you'll be bigger and stronger and you'll know how to protect yourself. But that's many, many years away. Gradually, Ben started to believe it. He began playing at recess again. He made a friend named Miguel who loved soccer as much as he did. He even agreed to try the after-school art program. The trials began in November. I testified first, recounting everything from the beginning. Stephanie's lawyer tried to paint me as a vindictive stepmother, but the evidence was overwhelming. The security footage, the recordings from Ben's tablet, Marcus's confession, it all painted a clear picture. Ben's testimony was done via closed-circuit video from another room. I couldn't watch, but his advocate later told me he was brave and clear. He told the truth about everything. Stephanie was convicted on all counts. 25 years minimum before parole eligibility. Paula got 5 years for conspiracy and attempted kidnapping. My ex-husband received 10 years, with possibility of parole in 7. As we left the courthouse for the final time, Ben held my hand tightly. Is it really over now? The scary part is, I said, kneeling to his level. What comes next is the good part. What's that? Whatever we want it to be. Christmas came with a peace we hadn't felt in years. Ben performed in his school's winter concert, standing proud in the front row. He'd joined the chess club and discovered he was good at strategy. His nightmares became less frequent. On New Year's Eve, as we watched fireworks from Catherine's porch, Ben snuggled between us on the swing. Mom, he said sleepily, I'm glad you fought for me. Always, baby. Always. Catherine squeezed my shoulder. We'd all fought, really, and we'd won. The next morning, Ben woke up excited about soccer practice. He chattered about his team's upcoming tournament while eating breakfast. He'd grown 2 inches since summer and needed new cleats. As I watched him lace up his shoes, tongue stuck out in concentration, I marveled at his resilience. This little boy who'd been through hell was learning to be a kid again. Ready? I asked. He jumped up, grabbing his soccer ball. Race you to the car. He took off running, laughing in the cold January air. No looking over his shoulder. No fear in his movements. Just a 6-year-old boy eager to play soccer with his friends. I followed at a slower pace, car keys jingling in my hand. We had therapy on Tuesday, a birthday party on Saturday, and parent-teacher conferences next week. Normal, boring, beautiful life stuff. Ben waited by the car, bouncing impatiently. Come on, Mom. We're gonna be late. Coming, sweetheart. As I unlocked the car, I caught sight of us in the window's reflection. A mother and son heading to Saturday morning practice. Nothing more, nothing less. Finally.